Hey everyone, my name is Robert. Welcome back to my channel, Barter Hordes. It is late Friday morning and I'm trying to get a little bit earlier jump on my Friday reads, so my 15-hour uploads will actually get this uploaded on Friday. This has been a really productive week for me reading-wise, which is shocking given all of the distractions I've allowed to come into this week. The World Cup, the College World Series, which thankfully ended last night. Lots of things going on. I played golf yesterday, which always kills at least half the day, and then I'm so wiped out from the heat and humidity that the second half of the day is all but ruined too, but I've still managed to have a really great reading week. So let's start off with a little bit of a check-in, just an update on where we are in the read-alongs. The read-along this week is Douglas Preston's The Lost City of the Monkey God, which is the story of an expedition in Honduras in 2015 to try to find this mythical lost city in the unreclaimed jungles of Honduras. I'll do a full video on that Sunday, so I won't talk about that too much here. Next week, though, we go back to the 100 Essential Novels list, and the selection for that list this month will be John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. The following week is the 100 Great Books list. We'll be reading Native Son by Richard Wright. Oh, a vicious Chihuahua attack dog is coming my way. And then the third week, the week after that, when we get to the list of 20th century backlists, we'll be talking about Philip Roth's Portnoy's Complaint. So that's what we have coming up the next 3 weeks on the read-alongs. Okay, so what did I read this week? I finished up, since my last Friday reads, I finished up, of course, last week's read-along, which was Jane Smiley's 1,000 Acres. But this week really turned into a week from the dark side. If those of you who have seen some of my previous videos know, I've always considered myself a one book at a time reader. But several people have told me the folly of my ways, including including Sean, including Kendra. So many people have told me that I need to come to the dark side and read more than one book at a time. And so I actually took a suggestion that I saw on Angie's channel, where she will go through and tab her books that she needs to read over a certain period of time and just map out how many pages she wants to read each day and just put little tabs in. And I've done that this week with 5 different books, which is unheard of for me. But I had to do it to some degree because some of the assignments that I had coming up, I think, were time-based. And so and all 5 of those books have kept me going, and I'll read like an hour in each one and then move on to the next one. And I've plowed through almost 5 books this week, and I'm going to be finishing them all tomorrow or probably tonight or tomorrow. So 5 books in a week for me is unheard of, and I've really enjoyed it. It's almost, I guess several people have said that one of the things they like about this is that if one of the books isn't holding their interest, that they don't have to stay with it very long on any given day. They alternate it out with other books, and that keeps them reading. And that's been true, because one of these 5 books has been a dreadful reading experience for me, and I probably would be stuck and not reading much at all if that were the only book I was reading this week. All right, so what am I reading? The first one I'm reading is a buddy read that I'm doing with Leah of Hide and Seek and Doris of Aldi Books, and that is Elizabeth von Arnim's The Enchanted April. And this book has been recommended to me by so many people, and I had never heard of Elizabeth von Arnim until about 2 months ago. So somehow I just missed that author completely. The story is really simple. 4 English ladies who don't know each other end up renting a medieval castle in Italy for the month of April. And it's the story of how they get along, how they get to know each other, and the changes this experience effects in these 4 women. And I'm just finding it charming. It's delightful. I'm doing a full video on that as I go, kind of I'm not sure what you call it, a reading vlog, I guess, sort of. And I'm not sure if Leah and Doris and I are going to combine those different videos into one big video, or if we're each going to publish separate ones. But I am doing another video of that book alone, so I won't say too much more about this book other than the fact that I'm loving it. It reminds me of E.M. Forster's A Room with a View, and it also reminds me a little bit of Jane Austen's writing style because of the satire of the upper crust English people who are so buttoned up that they can't even breathe. So that's the first one I've been reading. The second one is this week's read-along title, which I mentioned before, and that's The Lost City, the Monkey God by Douglas Preston. I will be doing a full video on that on Sunday, so again, I won't say too much about that one here other than the fact that I'm thoroughly enjoying this. The combination of archaeology and technology and the danger of the Honduran jungle that they're having to go through to try to find this site is truly frightening. And there are pictures in there of the snakes that they're battling, the conditions that they're working in. It's really quite a tale. I'm almost finished with it, and I'm absolutely loving it. The third one is a book that I picked up at the local library, and it's kind of a substitute in the June Reading Women's Month. I was scheduled to do this month a book of short stories by a woman author, and I still have one of those that I'll probably get to in July or August. But You Think It, I'll Say It by Curtis Sittenfeld showed up on my reserve checkout list at the library, so I substituted that one instead, and I'm almost finished with that collection as well. I really like her prose style. I read her first novel, Prep, a long time ago, and thought it was fine. I haven't read anything else by her since. I've missed her Jane Austen retake. But I don't like any of the characters in these stories, and so it's hard for me really to care much about any of them. Some of them are just awful people, some of them are just shallow, and I don't care what happens in their lives. So it's kind of a mixed blessing for me. I like her writing, I just don't like what she's writing about. The fourth book that I was reading is the one that I'm having a real hard time with. And this is one that I asked Steve Donahue to send me when he got the advanced reader's copy, and so I could consider doing a review of it for his online Open Letters Review, I think is the official title of it now. And it's called Famous Father Girl by Jamie Bernstein, and it's about growing up with Leonard Bernstein as her father. As a musician, I have a huge good feeling about Bernstein as a composer. As a conductor, I always thought he was a little bit flamboyant. It was all about him rather than the music, but that's beside the point. A lot of people love him for his conducting. But as a subject for this book, and with Jamie Bernstein writing this book, it is just dreadful. She talks about how easy writing is for her, but she's not any good at it. And Leonard Bernstein was a pretty horrible person in a lot of ways, and it's really kind of hard to read about him because he's just so out there. It's a weird mix of name-dropping and anecdotes from their precious life, because they had everything, because he was such a celebrity, and she's managed to bring in every famous star that Leonard ever hung out with, had dinner with, had sex with, whatever, and talked about how they're such a great friend of the family. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, my eyes were rolling from page 1 on. And then, but she writes about Leonard and his wife Felicia, who married him knowing he was gay. The combination of infantilism in this writing style and the name-dropping anecdotes and purple prose is just vomit-inducing. Even as somebody in her late 20s, she still refers to them as Mummy and Daddy constantly throughout this book. It's like, please, grow the fuck up. So I'm having a real hard time with this, even though I love reading about the music part of it. That's very little of what's actually being discussed in this memoir. And it's called a memoir of growing up Bernstein. So it is kind of a family history as well, but it's a screwed up family. I mean, Jamie is the oldest of 3 children, and they are all spoiled, completely incapable of doing anything for themselves, and irresponsible about everything. They all, of course, get into Harvard because Leonard went to Harvard. Another example of what's so wrong with the Ivy Leagues. But there's just not much about this book that I can recommend. I've got, I think, one section left to read, and I don't think I'm going to end up writing a review for Steve because I've hated this book so much that I would have to trash it, and I don't want my first published review for Steve to be something that I just absolutely detested. So I probably won't write a review on this book. But save your money. It is not worth reading. And that takes us to the fifth book that I've been reading this week, which is wonderful, and that is Fredrik Backman's new release, Us Against You. In case it's a surprise to anybody, I'm a huge fan of Fredrik Backman. I love his books. A Man Called Uwe and Beartown are my two favorites. This book is actually a follow-up to the Beartown story. In Beartown, which is set in a small Swedish town that's gradually dying economically, and they're obsessed with their hockey team, an event happens that rips the hockey club apart and the town apart. And then this book picks up in the aftermath of that, and another event tries to rip the town apart, and this is about how they tried to come back together again and what they can make out of the ruins. I had a little bit of trouble with the first 75 to 100 pages in this novel because so much of it was backfilling, either trying to remind you of what happened in Beartown in case it's been several years since you've read it, or if you hadn't read Beartown, setting the stage for what's going to happen in this book. And the other thing that is different in this novel than in some of his other novels is that he's starting to write in shorter and shorter sections. A chapter might have 4 or 5 different scenes in it with different characters in different places. And he's not staying with any one particular scene very long, and I'm feeling it's a little bit frenetic jumping back and forth. But this story just keeps ripping at your heart. There's so much going on, and been 3 or 4 times that I'm on the verge of tearing up again. And so, like all of Backman's works, I'm really taken by it. I find them very charming and delightful. And this is not an easy one to read because of all that's gone on in this town. There's some pain behind the things that have happened, but I'm loving it. One of the questions I had to answer recently in the mid-year book freakout was your favorite sequel of the year, and this is the only sequel to anything that I've read all year. I just don't read series that often, but this one worked out for me really well as a sequel once I got past that opening passage that I thought was kind of a little bit much backfilling. So there you have it. I finished one book, and I've started and almost finished 5 more, and I'll finish them all this weekend, and I'll replace them with another stack of books that I'm going to keep on the dark side, I guess. I'm not sure if I'll continue with 5 at a time because I don't have as many pressing titles on a schedule this week, but I think I'll probably continue with 3 or 4. It's been a lot of fun seeing how many pages I'm reading without feeling like I'm reading that many more hours. The time seems to fly by a lot faster. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to go back upstairs and start the interminable upload process that is my home Wi-Fi system. I've complained 3 or 4 times, and Xfinity just doesn't seem to care. I was down to under 1 megabyte per second on the last video I uploaded, which was about 17 minutes, and it took 7 hours to upload. That's worse than dial-up. I should go sit in Starbucks and upload it on their Wi-Fi. It probably would be faster. This morning it was a little bit faster. It was up to a whopping 2.5 megabits per second, so maybe this video will only take 4 hours to upload. But I'm going to get this one loaded for you, and I'm going to go back and start finishing off some of these books that I've started this week. I'm going to finish June with, it looks like, having read 55 books. My goal for the year was 100, so I'm right on track. I'm a little ahead of track. But I'm also going to be moving in late July or early August, and so I'm sure I'm going to be losing some reading time in that chaos. I'm going to put off packing as long as I can because I'm just a procrastinator. But it's coming. A couple weeks from now, that's all I'm going to be doing. So have a great weekend. Have a great start to your week. I'll see you again on Sunday with my read-along video for The Lost City of the Monkey God. Until then, see you later. Bye.